Welcome, listeners, to the Monthly Show about the scary, the spooky, and the supernatural. Get ready for the latest 2 pounds of horror.
Welcome back, horror devotees, to 13 Pods of Horror, your monthly deep dive into the shadows of the genre. I'm your host, Troy, and we are dedicating this entire episode to one of the most provocative and influential voices in modern horror, Ari Aster. From family trauma that crawls under your skin to daylight nightmares in Swedish fields, Aster has redefined what elevated horror can be, blending psychological unraveling, dark comedy, graphic violence, and visceral emotion. We're going to trace his journey, his early years, schooling, the shorts that broke him in, his explosive feature filmography, and what the future might hold. So grab your popcorn, or maybe a ritual offering, dim the lights, and let's descend. Ari Aster was born on July 15th, 1986, in Princeton, New Jersey, to a creative Jewish family. Just a week old, the family moved to New York City. His mother is a poet and visual artist. His father, a jazz musician and drummer. He also has a younger brother. Creativity was clearly in the blood. Childhood was nomadic and formative. The family lived briefly in England, where his father opened a jazz nightclub in Cheshire. Aster enjoyed it there, but they returned to the US when he was about 10, settling in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He's described himself as a fat kid with a stutter who felt alienated. He was even kicked out of Santa Fe preparatory schools. Film became his escape. He was obsessed with horror videos from local stores and Leonard Maltin's Movie Guide. A pivotal moment at age 4 while watching Dick Tracy, he freaked out during a violent scene and ran 6 blocks in terror. Originally inspiring to be an author, Aster shifted to screenwriting in high school, churning out 6 full-length scripts. He studied film at the College of Santa Fe, now part of the University of Santa Fe, graduating in 2008. There, he made short films, wrote for the weekly Alibi art magazine, and honed his voice. His obsession in horror ran deep. He exhausted every horror section he could find. Post-graduation, he applied to the American Film Institute Conservatory with a short film called Tale of Two Tims. It got him in and earned him his MFA in directing around 2010. AFI was crucial. It's where he connected with collaborators like cinematographer Powell Borgelselski and others, and where his thesis film would make waves. Aster's real breakthrough came through short films at AFI, and these were bold, taboo-pushing, and often deeply uncomfortable. Perfect training for his later work. The standout is The Strange Thing About the Johnsons from 2011, his thesis film. It's a psychological horror short about a suburban father trapped in an insidious, abusive relationship with his son. It premiered at Slamdance, leaked online, and went viral, sparking everything from acclaim to disgust. It showcased Aster's willingness to tackle the unspeakable and his knack for blending domestic normalcy with profound horror. Other notable shorts include Munchausen from 2013, Basically from 2014, C'est la Vie from 2016, Bo from 2011, The Turtle Head from 2014. These shorts built buzz, demonstrated his visual style, bright imagery contrasting visceral violence, dollhouse-like compositions, themes of grief and identity loss, and caught the eyes of producers. They planted seeds for the familial dread and surrealism that would define his features. Aster's feature debut exploded onto the scene. Hereditary is a $10 million supernatural psychological horror film that blends family drama with escalating occult dread. It grossed over $90 million and earned critical acclaim, especially for Toni Collette's performance. A24 distributed it after a strong Sundance premiere. Aster conceived Hereditary as primarily a family tragedy with 2 inextricable halves, a grounded domestic drama that gradually curdles into full horror. He drew from personal family experience during a difficult 3-year period and influences like Carrie, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, Rosemary's Baby, Ordinary People, and Ingmar Bergman's Cries and Whispers. He avoided pitching it strictly as horror to secure funding. Aster wrote the script quickly, about 3 months, and polished it off over time. He created a highly detailed shot list during pre-production to visualize the entire film, reflecting his background in shorts and AFI training. Toni Collette was an early target for Annie. The script's emotional depth convinced her despite horror reluctance. Gabriel Byrne signed on as Steve. Alex Wolff, who played Peter, had prior experience with Byrne. Miley Shapiro, playing Charlie, made her film debut after a standout audition. Aster sought strong dramatic performers over horror specialists. Production went about 10 weeks of pre-production in Utah. Exteriors used a real house in Salt Lake City. Interiors were custom built on a soundstage in Park City for the precise dollhouse aesthetic. Removing walls allowed distant miniature-like framing. Miniatures were also crafted by Stephen Newburn. Cinematographer Powell, a frequent Aster collaborator, was involved. The team scouted locations in Summit Country, Sandy Larkin's Sunset Garden Cemetery, and West High School. Aster's meticulous planning emphasized atmosphere, performance, and long takes over jump scares. Shooting began on February 2017 in Utah and wrapped after a tight 42-day schedule, roughly six weeks of production, followed by 10 weeks of pre-production. Mostly single-camera setups with limited two-camera coverage. Emphasis on sequential shooting and performance-driven coverage, rather than heavy B-roll or reverses. Aster directed with a detailed shot list. The production maintained a dramatic focus. Practical effects and miniatures were the key. Visual effects were used sparingly for intrication. Heavy on emotional intensity, Claudette's raw performance drove many scenes. The cast delivered strong, naturalistic family dynamics amid building dread. Aster specifically chose non-horror editors such as Jennifer Lame and Lucien Johnson to prioritize family drama and performances. He was hands-on, present in the room for much of the process. First assembly was 2 hours and 45 minutes. It grew to just under 3 hours before trimming it to the final 2-hour and 7-minute movie. Colin Stetson comprised the unsettling atonal score. Among ambient sounds, design amplified tension and unease. Colin Stetson composed the unsettling atonal score. Strong ambient sound design amplified tension and unease. The film premiered at Sundance in January 2018 and released widely on June 8th, 2018. Midsummer is Ari Aster's second feature, a folk horror film with a $9 million budget that grossed about $48 million. It explores grief, toxic relationships, and cult dynamics in bright daylight, contrasting hetero dark tones. Florence Pugh's performance as Danny received widespread acclaim. A24 released the theatrical cut on June 3rd, 2019. Aster was in post-production on Hereditary when approached by B-Re Films. Aster was in post-production on Hereditary when approached by B-Real Films, a Swedish company, for a slasher set among Swedish. He initially declined, but reimagined it as a breaking up movie dressed in the clothes of a folk horror film, drawing from his own difficult breakup. Influences included relationship comedies like Modern Romance and folk traditions. He called it The Wizard of Oz for perverts. Aster developed the Haga commune's rituals, folklore, and traditions with production designer Henrik Svensson. They visited Hälsingland, researching Hälsinglandard's farm paintings, midsummer celebrations, anthroposophy, and theosophy. The script centers on Danny's grief and her failing relationship with Christian, played by Jack Reiner. Square Peg, which is the production company of Aster and Lars Kindensen, and Be Real produced. Extensive planning for the commune's visual language, costumes, and rituals. Cinematographer Powell Borgolselski collaborated closely with Aster on the sun-dependent daylight aesthetic. Shooting ran from July 30th to October of 2018, about 2 to 3 months. Early US scenes were filmed in Brooklyn and Utah. The bulk occurred in Hungary, Budapest area, for financial reasons and longer day shooting windows, where in Sweden, limited shoots to 8-hour days. Hungary stood in for rural Sweden. Locations and sets were outdoor heavy with practical commune builds. The Harga village featured stylized painting structures inspired by Swedish farms. Interiors and key ritual spaces were constructed for control. Shot with a focus on bright, naturalistic daylight to sub horror expectations. Cinematographer Powell emphasized sun movement challenges. Delays in hair and makeup could ruin lighting continuity, requiring flexibility and continuity plans. Single or limited camera setups prioritize performance and composition. Long takes and wide shots captured the idyllic yet unsettling atmosphere. Arduous due to the heat, abundant wasps, and large crowds were some of the challenges they experienced. Edited by Lucian Johnson, who had also worked on Hereditary, and Bobby Krelick composed the score, blending Nordic folk with electric and ambient elements. Theatrical cuts were streamlined for pacing. The director's cut restores 20 to 30 minutes, adding extended rituals, subplots, and more graphic details without fundamentally altering the story. Aster was deeply involved. The process redefined the balance between daylight beauty and horror. Practical effects dominated, with visual effects supporting rituals and hallucinations. Sound design amplified unease throughout choral elements, breathing, and environmental sounds. Post-wrapped in time for the 2019 release, with the director's cut debuting later. Midsummer would go on to solidify Aster's reputation for ambitious, emotionally grounded genre work with meticulous visuals. The daylight settings and relationship focus makes it a unique folk horror entry. Beau's Afraid, originally entitled Disappointment Boulevard, is Ari Aster's third feature film. A surrealistic tragic comedy odyssey with a reportedly budget of about $35 million. It stars Joaquin Phoenix and underperformed commercially, grossing about $12 million, while received mixed to positive reviews for its ambition. The 179-minute film blends anxiety-fueled comedy, body horror, and psychological introspection. The project had a long gestation. A 2011 short film titled Beau serves as the basis of one of the sequences, and a 2014 script draft circulated online. Aster described it veritably as a nightmare comedy, a Jewish Lord of the Rings, or the results of pumping a 10-year-old full of Zoloft. It draws from personal anxieties and influences like Jacques Tati's Playtime, Hitchcock's Rear Window, Albert Brooks's Defending Your Life, Kafka, Charlie Kaufman, David Lynch, and more. Aster wrote a deeply personal, episodic script structured as an epic journey through Beau's psyche. It evolved from early ideas into a full feature exploring maternal guilt, paranoia, and arrested development. A24 announced the project in February 2021 with Phoenix attached. Ensemble casting followed in mid-long pre-production, 12 weeks including quarantine time in Montreal, allowed for elaborate world building, custom sets, fake advertisements, newspapers, and urban decay details to create Beau's nightmarish environment. Recurring collaborators cinematographer Powell and editor Lucien were key. Bobby Krulak also returned for the score. Aster aimed for a bold, indulgent, amateur version with square peg involvement. Shooting took place primarily in Montreal, Quebec. The downtown, suburban, and rural areas like Saint-Bruno de Montreville, with some set work. It lasted about 3 months after 12 weeks of pre-production. An entire block was populated with custom production design for the chaotic city scenes. Suburban and forest sequences used local areas. Practical sets emphasize surreal, immersive environments. Shot with cinematographer Powell's input for a mix of dense comedic framing and nightmarish escalation. The production featured ambitious practical elements, animation sequences, and stunts. Phoenix performed intense physical work, including breaking through glass. The film's length and structure required careful balancing of its episodic nature. The score enhanced the dreamlike, anxious tone. Having extensive posts to integrate animation, visual effects for surreal elements, and fine-tuned pacing. Aster was hands-on refining the nightmare logic. The final cut runs just under 3 hours, trimming from a potentially longer version. Premiering at the Alamo Drafthouse in April 2023, followed by limited, then wide theatrical release. Home video and director's commentary offering further insights. Aster later reflected on the film's mixed perception, noting things he might change, but standing by its ambition. Beau's Afraid represents Aster's most personal and divisive work to date, pushing boundaries of runtime, tone, and surrealism after the success of Hereditary and Midsommar. Eddington is Ari Aster's fourth feature, a satirical neo-Western thriller set in 2020 amid the COVID-19 pandemic and George Floyd protests. With a $25 million budget, it stars Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal and examines political and social division in a small New Mexico town. It premiered at Cannes in May of 2025, receiving generally positive reviews, but it was a box office underperformer. Its running time, 149 minutes. Aster had a core idea, a contemporary Western, for years. Originally considered it as a potential debut before Hereditary. He updated the script to the pandemic era while promoting Beau's Afraid. The story uses a mayoral race as a microcosm of national fractures, lockdowns, protests, conspiracies, misinformation, and big tech influence. Aster wrote the script with a grounded yet escalating tone. Pre-production emphasized location authenticity in New Mexico, Aster's home state. Casting included reunions with Phoenix and new collaborators. Cinematographer Darius Kahunji, first time with Aster, joined for a naturalistic, harsh desert aesthetic. Influences include HUD, The Lost Picture Show, and other emphasizing texture and light. Shot lists involved around real locations rather than heavyset builds. Shot lists evolved around real locations rather than heavily set builds. Shooting occurred on March to May of 2024, entirely on location in New Mexico, Albuquerque, Truth or Consequences, and surrounding area. No sound stages. Everything used real buildings and landscapes. Practical, on-location focus captured authentic small town and desert environments. Key sites included a water tower mural in Las Cruces. Las Cruces. The production adapted to real buildings and vast desert stretches. Cinematographer Darius pushed for bright, stinging daylight with inky blacks. Aster shifted towards more rehearsal and on-the-day blocking with actors, building on Bo is Afraid experience with Phoenix, though he still prepared shot lists adapted to location. Complex actions required careful planning around practical stunts and weather, including chases, shootouts, and explosions. Windy season caused major issues, dirt storms, lost nights in the desert, and schedule disruptions. Erratic weather, sudden storms, forced flexibility, tight timelines, amplifying logistic problems. Once again edited by Lucian Johnson, and also scored by Bobby Krillick again. As previously stated, it had its Cannes premiere in May 16th of 2025, followed by the US theatrical on July 18th, 2025. Aster isn't slowing down. He has multiple projects lined up. Highlights including Escape, his next film with Scarlett Johansson attached to star, A24 project expected to shoot soon, an Eddington sequel that he's been cooking up, and other announced or rumored, a potential Hereditary prequel, various unfinished ideas from earlier years, and collaborations like in animation. He signed deals and continues building his slate through SquarePeg, except more boundary-pushing work, whether horror, satire, or something wildly new. And so that's our deep dive into Ari Aster, a filmmaker who turned personal demons, taboos, and everyday anxieties into some of the most unforgettable cinematic events in the modern era, from the inherent horrors of Hereditary to the daylight rituals of Midsummer, the serial odyssey of Beau is Afraid, and the fractured politics of Eddington. He keeps pushing the boundaries of what genre can do. What's your favorite Ari Aster film or short? Drop it in the comments or on our social medias. And since this episode drops just 2 days before Ari's birthday on July 15th, consider this your official 13th Pods of Horror birthday tribute. Be sure to tune in next month, where we will tackle another horror icon or subgenre. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining the 13 Pods of Horror. Sleep with the lights on, or don't. Good night.
You have just been listening to 13 Pods of Horror, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to download, subscribe, share, rate, and review. Buy us a coffee by going to ko-fi.com/planetgeekpod. On different social medias, you can search for either Planet Geek Productions or Planet Geek Pod. You can also reach out to us via email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.